Alright, well, I guess we'll just hope this works. Hello everyone, this is Spasmodic, and today I'm going to be doing some audio commentary for my jumping video entitled Feel. To give a little introduction to this, jump video commentary exists in a satirical fashion, but I haven't seen anyone attempt it seriously. To the best of my knowledge, anyway. Since a lot of people have told me that they greatly enjoy commentary, and since jumping videos can often be difficult to understand, the audience is kind of removed from what's happening largely, I'm going to be doing some for my video Feel. I'll be going through a variety of things, chief among them being how the jumps actually work. I won't focus too much on inputs though. There's a distinction to be made there between how jumps work and what buttons you have to press to make them work. Since I often forget exactly which buttons I press, I'd probably miss a crucial component to the jump. If I can explain it easily and I feel it's warranted, I'll go in depth and try not to embarrass myself. Thankfully, the physics in Halo 1 aren't too demanding. Just stick with the left analog stick and the A button, you should be fine in most cases. I tell you to stick with W and the spacebar, but I'm afraid Halo PC is for cowards and failures. If you're wondering, yes, I have a slight sense of humor and communicate almost entirely with sarcasm. Now, in addition to describing inputs where I deem it necessary, I will also be talking about why the jump made it into the video, how I came up with the idea, and anything else that pops into my head that I think is interesting. Since Feel is a very short video, I decided to start off this commentary series with it, so hopefully it won't outstay its welcome. If you like this idea, feel free to give me feedback. If I wasn't perfect in every regard, well, shit. One thing you've probably noticed by now is the fact that I'm using XSplit to screen capture Windows Media Player. Okay, so the program may not have been entirely obvious, but the quality is a bit poor. Because I want to go really in depth with this and explain as much as I can, without too much bloat information, hopefully, I have to do a stop and go type of video. I can't talk about everything since the video goes so fast. I also have the advantage of using my mouse cursor here, so I can point out or point at little things, quite literally. This really cuts down on the extra filming and editing I would have to do, and it accomplishes the same thing. I guess I should say it cuts down on the filming and editing I'm willing to do, and I'm way too lazy to do that. This way isn't as clean, but hopefully it's as thorough. I may just stick with this method of commentary as it's super easy for me. So just think of me as the hot teacher pointing at stuff with a meter stick. I know the imagery is creepy, but it's effective. So let's get started. So right off the bat, you may notice that the song is a bit odd. I heard it first in a Counter-Strike video called DGL by Panda, so full credit to him. I found the song very attractive thanks entirely to his editing. Generally, how I make jumping videos is I hear a song that I like, and then I start thinking of jumps, and I craft the video in my head. Rarely will I just go out and start landing random jumps. I have a hard time thinking like that. This process works much better for me, as I have a clear objective at the end. Lately, I've been favoring short songs with lots of style, which obviously means a shorter video, which in turn means less work for me. If it sounds lazy, it's because it kind of is. Mostly, I just don't really enjoy devoting days and weeks on end to video games anymore. I used to be attracted to the larger videos, like my Just Jump series. I was going to do a Just Jump 3, but I found it too stressful. I decided to do smaller, creative videos following the aforementioned process of finding a song and landing jumps afterwards. I'm also attracted to videos with little quirks to them, like my video Singular that I made with Mador. My videos all have direction to them now, and they don't lose their luster so quickly as large videos tend to do. There's no question of whether or not I will think these jumps will stand up or be entertaining down the road. They're fun for me right now. The videos are easier to make, there's zero stress involved, and I have a lot of fun, so it's a process I'm sticking with. Also, just to clarify, when I say quote-unquote larger videos, I mean larger in terms of impact. That was a weird sound. There's a clear difference between the Look Before You Leap series and my video Quirk. Within the context of this distinction, I think there are two types of videos. and both videos know exactly what they are. For instance, with the Just Jump series I started years ago, that was intended to be a series where I would improve on each video and raise the bar each time, push the envelope. With my old video Drone Beat, that wasn't trying to be the best video ever made, just a simple, creative, fun video. You see what I mean? With all that in mind, Feel is a very interesting video. With larger videos, the bulk of your time is generally spent trying to land the jumps and trying to land the best jumps you possibly can. With Feel, the bulk of my time was spent setting up the jumps more so than landing them. This video took about 12 hours of work to complete, which isn't a grand stretch of time, but compared to my usual routine of finishing a video in under an hour, and it's a fair time commitment. Now, to actually get into the video. This first jump was a jump I landed a very long time ago for a video called The Three Towers Revisited. I never recorded it, so it obviously never made it into the video, but the memory of it stuck with me for this long. It's kind of hard not to remember anything involving a blue beam tower. I love this jump a lot because it's ridiculously simple, but the setup for it is not quite as simple. So comfortably, it takes about 12 grenades to launch yourself and a Warthog on top of this lower section of the tower. So you have to play through the mission, you have to clear out this area that I'm in, make the grenade pile, get the checkpoint, and launch away. All for a jump that barely takes any time to land. Since I was playing on easy, I have 1 bar of health left. See it when the video turns to color. 1 bar of health left when I get on top of the tower. This means after I throw my plasma grenade here to balance the Warthog, I have to run to the edge of the tower to escape the blast radius. Now, normally I will balance a Warthog so it's on the left front wheel. There's a lineup you can do with your crosshair to make that 100% consistent, and I only knew how to balance it on the left. But doing so meant I didn't have enough distance to clear the gap from the lower section of the tower to the top section. So I had to balance the Warthog on the right. Once it's balanced, it's a simple jump across the gap. You can see it in third person. It was an attractive jump for me, not only because I landed it years ago and always wanted it to have its own day in a video, but because the blue beam towers are these iconic structures, and once you get up there, it's just blank. There's not a lot to do up there by yourself. You also can't jump from the lower section to the upper section, but with a dash of creativity and 30 to 40 minutes to spare, this can happen. It's a very charming little jump. Next is the jump that first popped into my head when I heard this song. It's yet another example of something that's fairly iconic, the Banshee pillar on Banshee pillar on Assault on the Control Room. There's too many pillars in this game. But it's largely a blank slate on its own when you get up there. This is the Banshee pillar, by the way. Except for this little tower here. I've long since been intrigued by this tower, wondering what I could do with it, and I thought about this. This jump is also a great example of setup time versus time spent landing. So, first I have to clear out the level, I have to collect about 30 to 40 grenades, drag a checkpoint, and then launch away. Like the blue beam tower, there's no way to jump on top of this little tower without a little assistance, so it's inviting for a creative mind, just to toot my own horn. If you haven't picked up on the theme of the video, I'll give you a hint. Every jump involves a vehicle in some regard. My creativity tends to flourish when I use vehicles. I don't have rubble jumps or ghost jumps or forge mode available to me in Halo 1, so I work with what I have. It can be hard sometimes to keep a video nicely varied but creative enough for my tastes, but since this video is so short, I saw no harm in it. Now originally, I wanted to launch a second Warthog up here, tip it on its side, and use it as a ramp. I'd put the overturned Warthog at the base here, and once I jump out of the Warthog, I would go land right on top. However, there are 2 other jumps in this video that involve Warthogs on their sides, so I needed a different tool here. The Banshee can be used as a ramp, so instead of spending more time launching a ghost up or something, I took the simple route and just used what I had. I needed the Warthog for this jump, as I needed to achieve what's known as a fling. When you're driving a Warthog, you can get out and jump, and you'll gain a fair bit of speed. If you turn the Warthog left, I was going to say left or right, doesn't make sense. If you turn the Warthog to the left and get out, you can gain a bit more speed from your jump. However, if you turn the Warthog, get out, wait a moment, and then jump, the Warthog will hit you at the exact moment you jump, and it will send you flying. I needed the most powerful fling I could get to get on top of this tower. It's deceptively tall. I didn't have enough power with a fling on its own, so I incorporated this grenade, and then I nailed the fling right there, and all the momentum was directed upwards thanks to the Banshee, and the grenade gave me more than enough power to reach the top. Next is this neat little jump on Silent Cartographer. I can't remember when this idea came to me exactly. If you're wondering, at the risk of sounding arrogant, I don't actually know how I think of these things. They just kind of come to me at random in the form of a picture in my head, so I write it down and bring it to life later on. I think it was Da Vinci who said, "Everything you can imagine is real." This is kind of like the nerdy equivalent. So I started off by looking at this little strip here that's doing not much of anything. Like, it barely blocks the sun. It's pathetic. It's a neat little spot because it's too short to launch to, but it's too high to jump to. Then up above, where I'm standing here, we also have the iconic hidden hallway, as it's called. For whatever reason, this hallway popped into my head one day, so I now had two sides to the equation, the hidden hallway and this little strip. But I didn't have anything to make it make sense in the middle. So I immediately thought of a slide ramp, as they're very uncommon in Halo 1, and I felt a slide was a little too underwhelming in this case. And I would describe what a slide ramp is, but I execute it, and I think if I try and describe it, I'm just going to butcher it, so we'll just say this is a slide ramp and call it a day. So at first I wanted to land the jump without a grenade. But the hallway down here is very narrow, and I couldn't figure out how to position the second Warthog, this one here, to give me enough height to reach the tiny ledge. A small part of me regrets not tampering with it some more, but I was happy with how this jump turned out regardless. Now, this Warthog is balanced because the hidden hallway is a fair ways up. I couldn't think of how to position the Warthog on its own regularly, that is, when it's on all four wheels, that would negate fall damage and give me the push I needed for the slide. If you suffer, how can you tell I'm hungry? If you suffer fall damage while trying to do a slide jump, depending on how much damage you take, it can stop you in your tracks. So I balanced the Warthog for a little height and to gain access to the wheels. Every edge in Halo 1 is secretly sloped. Sorry to clear my throat here, I'm dying. You can test this yourself. I really like doing it on Hang 'em High because there's just lots of straight edges there. You'll notice if you crouch and you walk off an edge, you'll notice that you'll dip down first before you fall. You can use this invisible lip for edge slides or in some cases to avoid fall damage. But in this case, the more obvious choice is to go with the circular tires on the Warthog, as it's a more defined slide. So I fall off the hidden hallway because if you jump and then try to slide in Halo 1, you don't achieve a slide jump like you would in Halo 2 or Halo 3. To get a slide jump to work in Halo 1, you have to fall without jumping and jump as you land. So as I'm falling, I hold crouch right about here. And when I hit the tire in a very specific spot towards the edge, as I can't just land on it directly or I'd die, I release crouch. This results in a little bounce right off the tire, and it maintains most of my speed. I take damage when I hit the ground, but it's not enough to kill my momentum. I also don't crouch when I land, because I needed to jump right away as I hit the ground. Crouching would have made me slide slightly, So I slide up over the overturned warthog for a little bit of height, and then the grenade covers the remaining height and distance needed to reach the ledge. There's no need to crouch when I hit the ledge. I just land and basically let go of everything. In some cases in Halo 1, if you hold crouch when you land, there's a greater chance you'll slide off of whatever you're trying to land on. Now this next jump was a jump that I was actually going to use in a different video. I wanted to cross this gap without a grenade, but the gap was a lot longer than I thought, so I abandoned the idea of doing it unaided. That is, without damage boosts. But the idea of crossing this gap stuck with me, and as I was thinking of setting up another jump in this area, I decided to just give it a go for fun. So I tried to land on top of the tree normally by getting out of the Banshee and landing on top of the tree, but it's annoying because the top of the tree is just this little tip. So I got a Banshee stuck on top of it first. It's very easy to do. You just have to position the Banshee properly on top of the tree and just let go of your controller until the Banshee stops moving. So then you have a bigger platform to jump on. Now it's pretty obvious that this is really high up, so hitting the ground would result in instant death. Even hitting a sloped edge at this point would cause damage. But there's a little sloped surface here that you can't stand on. If you can't stand on it, there's a very good chance that it won't hurt you when you fall on it. This was the mechanism by which I could cut the bulk of my fall damage and maintain enough momentum to clear the gap. It's difficult to see in the video. It just looks like a little Illuminati triangle. I thought about marking it with a plasma pistol just for my benefit, but I didn't want to distract from the jump too much. And if you, just in case you're wondering, you can take a plasma pistol and just aim it at the ground and fire a whole bunch, and it'll leave a little black mark. It kind of gives the jump an air of mystery without that little marker. Just like, how the hell did I survive that fall and get that much speed? It's just such a subtle detail. If people are asking questions about your video, oftentimes that can mean you've done something well. So I throw the plasma grenade, then I wait, and then I fall. So plasma grenades bounce when you throw them from a great height, and the fuse doesn't light until they are firmly on the ground. You'll actually see this. It'll hit the ground and then bounce over to the edge. And then it's lit. If you were interested in, sorry, I had to stretch there. If you were interested in trying jumps involving grenades in Halo 1, you have to factor that bounce into your timing. So when I hit this slope, you can see it's very defined here, I flick crouch. So this results in a little bounce. It's a bit like the bounce I achieved off of the Warthog tire in the previous jump, except this bounce is a little bit more subtle. If I just fell and jumped when I hit the ground, I wouldn't gain enough speed to clear the gap. But with this little crouch flick, I do. If you flick crouch when you hit the ground in Halo 1, you suffer more fall damage than if you just fell normally, and certainly if you crouched while landing. If you crouch while landing in Halo 1, you don't take as much fall damage. I don't know how this crouch flick works exactly, or even how to describe it in a way that is satisfying and makes sense. This is where I'm noticeably shit at describing exact controller inputs. I largely go off of feel when I land jumps, ergo the video title. The applications for this crouch flick technique can of course only be applied to slide jumps that need just a little bit more power. But when you factor in fall damage, it can be a tricky technique to use on the rare occasion. In this case, it worked perfectly. It's hard for me to describe exactly how it works. You'll just have to give it a whirl yourself. So of course, after the crouch flick off of this slope, I jump, the grenade is perfectly timed, and I have just enough power to clear the gap. It's funny, this jump was just something just popped into my head. I wanted to do it randomly just for fun, and it turned out to be one of the best jumps in the video. So I had to land this jump on Legendary, as you take more damage from grenades on easy than you do on Legendary. If you'll remember the first clip in the video where I launched on top of the tower, I had 1 bar of health left. But since I'm on Legendary, I have plenty of health to spare. So since I was always taking fall damage, the grenade would kill me instantly on easy, whereas on legendary I had enough health to survive. So this jump is my favorite in the entire video. Originally it was a far simpler jump. I've thought about incorporating a vehicle stuck in the floor in a jump for some time now, but I only ever had one other idea before this one, and it didn't pan out. I've done some neat things with this particular tank. So, when it's stuck in the floor, I've done some neat things, I should say. But I've also done cool things with the tank just when it's upright. So I wanted to set it up again. So setting it up so it's under the floor is a bit laborious. You have to position the tank in a certain spot in the tunnel. You have to perform a Banshee out of level glitch, which is only convenient if you drag a checkpoint all the way to where you need to do it. You fly back into the level beyond a load zone. You have to give the tank a good blunt strike, and you hope it doesn't fall through the floor into the endless abyss or flip back into the level itself. If you do it right, voila, you have a tank stuck in the floor, just like it is now. I thought the idea of a tank submerged in the geometry would be enough to sell anyone to a jump. Like, holy shit, a goddamn tank just came out of the floor. What is happening here? I felt I didn't need to do anything fancy with it beyond that. So I landed my original idea almost immediately, but it was pretty boring. But I kept doing it because it was fun anyway, which is the story of Halo 1. And at some point, I got a huge boost in the air if I stood in a certain spot and jumped in a certain way. This jump follows much the same principle as the Warthog fling in the second jump in the video. If you flip a vehicle and you stand in the right spot and you jump at the right time, it can net you surprising results. This is shown plain as day here with the tank turret coming out of the ground and very deliberately propelling me upwards. You're going to see it. There you go. So, and I also don't know why I jerked off the tank turret there. Just pay no attention to that. We'll just edit that out. I didn't think I'd actually have enough power to reach the top of this tube pipe thing, but it turned out to be enough. So this jump was part good idea, but mostly a happy accident. I simply had to position the tank close to the pipe, get a checkpoint, and then I'm going to throw a grenade. Then I flip the tank. You'll see press X to flip Scorpion. That's what brings it back into the level. And then I let it push me right there, and the grenade took care of the rest of the height. The only downside to this jump is that the room is really dark, and the filter I used in the video darkened it a bit more. Not dramatically, but enough to perhaps get you to squint or just rewind. So I'm sorry about that. Also, I had to make sure that I landed on this section of the pipe. It's hard to see. If I landed any lower, like on this surface, you can't walk on this surface, so I would just slide right off if I landed on it. Now, the last jump in the video. This jump came to my mind one day while I was at work, and I was absolutely stoked to try it. It didn't turn out exactly as I had imagined it. Originally, I either wanted to use one of these rocks in the distance. You can see it just over there. One of these rocks in the distance. I wanted to use one of them as a ramp, but none of them were sloped the way I wanted them to be. And there's also an infinite checkpoint underneath this arch here. Actually, all around this arch. Meaning, every time you go near it, you'll get a checkpoint. In this case, had I launched to it from the overshield, I would have gotten a checkpoint and the jump would be ruined. So I came up with the solution of overturning a Warthog near the grenade pile and using that as my upwards directional influence. It's also just a ramp if you want to get technical. The Warthog had to be somewhat far away from the grenade pile, so the grenade pile wouldn't just launch the Warthog away and ruin the jump. Now, when you pick up an overshield in Halo 1, you get a couple seconds of invulnerability. For multiplayer, you have the option of damage resistance and 400% shields. In campaign, you kind of have to work with what you have. Unless you play Halo PC, of course, then you can be lame and never die and never land jumps like a man. So I have this convenient overshield and this inviting large open space. It was begging for a jump to cap off the video. also known as an ender jump, or just an ender. This area is also quite iconic in Halo 1, with many people touching the ceiling of the level using the invulnerability of the overshield, and there's also the rando glass arch. The jump itself was very simple to land, but like every other jump in this video, it took time to set up. The land on which the Warthog is overturned is sloped towards the ocean, so whoever did the grading for the internal structure to the left was a very smart landscaper. There's going to be no water penetration there. Oh god, I've been watching too much home and garden television. This basically means like the Warthog would slide down the hill every time I moved it, so I had to be pretty careful setting it up. Once it was set up, I just had to throw a nade, grab the overshield, make sure I was within my invulnerability window, and also make sure I was more or less on the Warthog as the grenades went off. So I'd be sent upwards. There was exactly 31 grenades in that grenade pile, which was a bit much, but I couldn't quite gauge the distance from the overshield to the arch. About 30 grenades seemed comfortable to start with, and I could just take grenades out if I was getting, sent into the sun. I got sent flying once or twice, but when I did land the jump, the landing was just sexy, and I wasn't too concerned at that point with going back, setting it all up again, except this time with less grenades to make it more impressive in a small way. I was satisfied with how it turned out. And as you'll notice, I got a checkpoint shortly after landing, so I'm really glad I stuck that landing. And that's the video. So as with any video I make, I'm always very happy with how it turns out, but I'm also left with a small desire to expand on things and see if I can make them better. Hopefully someone will watch a video like this and want to do the same. It's always nice to see something go through someone's personal filter and you can watch them put their own twist to it and make it theirs. So I actively and accidentally inspire myself with every new video, which means I can just keep making videos and having fun. So hopefully you enjoy them. And I hope you also enjoyed this commentary. I enjoyed writing it and voicing it. I suspect I missed several key things and didn't elaborate on enough, so since I wrote the notes for the commentary in one quick sitting. Thus, if you have any questions you want answered, don't hesitate to ask. I'll do my best to elaborate. Also, if you enjoyed this commentary and would like me to do more, let me know in the comments. If you didn't like this, well, sorry, I can't reverse what just happened. I trust in time you'll recover. Spaz out!